guys, Marco here from the VATICANTS, and today we have something really cool. We're gonna compare or give a little love letter overview to three of the greatest heads, in my opinion, that were ever made. Ironically, three heads that are built on existing platforms. We have the JVM410 Joe Satriani, we have the YJM100 and the AFD100. And we know whether you like the JUBILEE platform, the 1959 platform, or the JVM platform, it's an incredible diversity of sounds. And it's something I always wanted to do for myself. And then I figured, you know what? If I'm gonna do this here over 5-6 hours, why not share it with you guys? And I love hearing comments, and especially in the Marshall groups, because there's such an incredible amount of knowledge out there, etc., etc. And man, Marshall's gonna bring these amps back in some kind of form. Funny enough, all three are 2011. All three were limited, except for the Satriani, which was a production, but then discontinued. And to me, seriously, the three greatest things ever done that Marshall sent out of England, because they were based on existing platforms, but the respective players tweaked them. And I truly think they're absolutely stunning. Let's jump right into it. Enjoy this. I really hope you get a lot out of this. I'm trying to do it in a very organic way for you, and most importantly, make it about the amps. And again, remember, if at any point you want to jump forward, timestamps are included. And well, keep safe out there, number one. Number two, thanks for watching and enjoy. I'm gonna start things off with this super cool shot. Look at that. And what's so cool is it's something you do not see every day. And forgive me for the moving up here. I have him on the floor. It was the only way to just get this monumental shot. I'll jump right into it. And remember, there are timestamps in the video. Jump back and forth. I do not want to rush this. This is not meant to be watched in one viewing. Enjoy yourself. Just wanted to give you a quick overview. It's very rare that you see these three together. And then we'll jump into kind of having a look at them individually. But this is just cool. Another thing too, it kind of shows you the difference in their size too, which is funny. Of course, remember the Malmsteen on the very bottom is basically a 59 with improvements. The Slash is a JUBILEE with improvements, and the Satriani is a JVM410 with improvements. They're all better, and yes, they are better. This is not subjective, this is a fact. Each one of them is better and more modern than the platform they are built on. And what's fascinating, also, I never thought of it that way, but it's ironic, Marshall comes to you and says, hey, you know what, Joe, Slash, Yngwie, we'll build you an amp the way you want. And all of them took an existing platform. Yngwie a 59, which he's been playing his whole life, and added what he thought the amp needed. Slash basically said the greatest amp ever built is a 2555, a JUBILEE. It's all I'll ever need, but it is missing a power attenuator and an effects loop. And Satriani said, you know what, man, I need a lot of knobs, and the 410 has that. But the 410 kind of sounds, it's good, but not great. Let's do some tweaks to it. Let's get rid of the reverbs, add gates, and tweak the channels and make blah, 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 blah. So it's just fascinating when you think about it. How amazing in itself is that story, And what's also cool is, notice the difference in size too. The Satriani being the slimmest, the Slash awkwardly having a centimeter in the back that sticks out, and they don't even really fully flush when you look. So it's kind of weird that the JUBILEE usually has the same size as the JVM. I could be wrong. I hope there's enough light here. And then of course you have the, the Malmsteen carries the chassis of the 59, which of course is the old school Marshall from the late 50s, early 60s, and they're taller and wider and bigger, and they're super freaking heavy. Actually, it's the same size, height, I should say, as the JUBILEE, because it's a very similar time period, but the 59 has a little bit more depth to it. And you can also see just a really cool comparison shot. of all three. So I thought this would be really cool to see before we jump into them individually. It's just something that you don't get to see a lot. And these three are just kind of, you know, that to me, just the three greatest heads ever made, or I should say power heads. You know, there's a lot of great stuff out there. I'm just talking specifically for that kind of unique Marshall situation. Funny, all of them 2011, all of them limited. I'm gonna shoot from the hip. I think the Malmsteen is 1500. The Slash I know is 2500. And then, correct me if I'm wrong, so they were quite limited. They all sold out the same year they came out. I know that much because I talked to Marshall at NAMM a lot. And then there was only 500 made of the blue. This was for their 60th anniversary. It also came with a blue 4x12. I still think those amps sound the best through 2x12s because you play them in a setting, you know, if you play them in a setting less than, you know, 25,000 people. I don't play that many. I play maybe up to 3,000 people. So 2x12 with a power attenuator is the best for me, but that's your personal use. But, and the Satriani wasn't a limited one. They were actually in production for 4 years, 10 to 14, kind of 4-ish. And then he left to start his own thing, but that never came to fruition. And it's a shame because the three best heads ever made discontinued. So let's jump into them individually and kind of discover them and see what they are all about. Enjoy. And this is it, the coveted HJS 410. For you who don't know, it's based on a JVM 410, which I owned. I liked it. It wasn't quite for me. I felt it was really good, but not great. And what Joe and Santiago and Mr. Marshall did was take that and quote unquote improve it. Of course, it's a question of taste. I personally think they came out with a masterpiece. And to me, this is the most versatile head ever made to me. If you like a lot of buttons, a lot of options, it is very unique. It is not for everybody, but I promise you, if you want to have options, this head is the options head. It has all the options that you could wish for in a head, and it truly, genuinely takes the 410 JVM to the next level. The cover, much like the other heads, you know, a personalized cover that just mentions the name. It comes with really a nice booklet, certificate of authenticity, etc., etc. Just your typical Marshall stuff. These manuals are kind of like in 7-8 languages. Nothing fancy really, but it is pretty cool, the fact that, you know, they kind of give you nice goodies with it. This is the blue one. They come in blue and black. Excuse me. Real quick, the foot switch. You know what? Let's take this off. Let's look at this gorgeous blue. I'm going to lift this. Oh, wow. We actually have two of these. There's the other one. This is the lady being shot today right now. Let me just show you the foot switch real quick it comes with, which is really cool. Now, for you who don't know, the later ones before production ended came with the generic JVM foot switch. These are kind of very sought after, and I'll take that out because the original foot switch actually had the LED lights on there, and I'll show you what I mean. And I'll take this a little bit out of the case so you can kind of see it in real time. So the later ones shipped with the generic JVM, just with the 6 buttons so you can mark it yourself. The early ones actually had the foot switch with the LED lights, which is awesome. I prefer them because you actually see what you're shifting. I don't know why they discontinued that. When I got my black HJS, it came with the generic one. So this is really the one you want. And of course, the anniversary models came with that no matter what. It's really cool because remember, each channel on this amp has 3 channels. It has an incredible gate in there, which is, it genuinely is a studio quality gate, effects loop. And the lights circulate amber, green, amber, and red. So it tells you, if you switch one, you're on green, amber, and red. So you can cycle through each channel, which is really, really, really cool. So for you who didn't know that. And of course on the amp, you can see the lights as well. But it's kind of cool that if you have that older switch it comes with. The problem is, I guess there was some issues, if the lights go out, it just doesn't tell you where you're at. But then again, you can kind of hear it anyway. It's really, really obvious when you cycle through the channels. So that's that, but check out this beauty. Still has the original tubes. The Marshall EL34s, which aren't that good. I mean, in all honesty, they're made in China. They're, nothing to rave about when you buy a $3,000 amp. Oh my God, this thing is heavy. But on the ones I actually play and use, I replaced them with JJs. So, you can kind of see through there, they're still the Marshall ones. And this thing is mint, beautiful, gorgeous. So let me walk you through the back. Your typical usual suspects, send and return, of course. Here's what's really cool, what Sach did. He did a return level, and it actually tells you when you're on 0 dB. Of course, you can have your effects loop less or more. It goes all the way up, I think, to about 6. Yep, 6. And then all the way to being completely cut. You have your power amp, of course, send and return, if you want to make that active or bypass it. What's really cool about this, it has MIDI. So that is something that he did that's really, really cool. Foot switch, of course, right here on the white one. Your line out, and then, of course, your 120 or, 200 and up, depending where you are in Europe. Incredibly well built, top quality stuff. Let me turn around and show you some things on the front that make this amp so special. Now, one thing I should point out, that of the 3 amps, the YJM, the AFD, excuse me, and the HJS, this is the only one that doesn't have a attenuator, which is very interesting. So this really kind of, you have to put an attenuator on the outside. Separate, if you will, for lack of better words. And that, of course, is obviously going to open up the discussion how good that is for the amp or not. All I can tell you about this amp is go on YouTube and watch a lot of videos. The amp sounds absolutely stunning. So what is the amp? The amp is a little bit of a bastard child between a 22034. It's a JCM800 meets 900 meets a Plexi meets a 5150, and then kind of tweaked from there. And on the red channel, on the second channel, you have the AFD circuit, which Sach loves. There's no secret, he loves 5150s, he loves Soldanos, and he said that several times in the interviews that he likes the sound of those. So he kind of did those and tweaked them. Now, a couple of things that are unique about the amp. And again, every time you cycle through a channel, you'll have green, amber, and red, which is really cool. But there's a couple things that make this much more unique than a regular JVM. And I'm going to turn it a little bit so we have light on the front, and then I'll show you exactly what I mean. On the JVM, you have reverbs here, and Sach replaced that with gates. And I can tell you genuinely, and you know my reviews, I'm honest. I was skeptical many years ago when I tried it, because a lot of times when you put gates on board, they sound like shit. And one thing I can tell you is, genuinely, the gates are, the real deal. They're top-notch shit. They truly are studio quality gates. And I mix my own stuff, as you know, with the VATICANTS, with my band, and they are legit. They're really, really good. What you want to do, and I love the knobs. They're really hard to turn, top quality stuff. It just feels, you want to have the gates, and yeah, for each channel you have a gate. So for overdrive 1, for the clean, crunch, and OD2. So if you can enable and disengage them for each channel, of course. So once you select it, it instantly stores it on the foot switch, and you're good to go. But if you put them around, if you have them post 2 o'clock, it'll start affecting the sound, like actually any good gate will. You don't want that. here's your sweet spot, somewhere around 10, 11. I noticed when I play live, and I blast the amp. So I use my black one for live playing. So it really, it's incredible. And if you put a Boss NS2 maybe in the front at a setting of maybe 8 a.m., you'll completely be noiseless. I mean, you'll be dead silent at 60 watts volume and won't even affect the tones. So that's really what you're paying for here. You of course have two masters, which again are controllable through the foot switch. Like you see here, you have the master, which is green, and then if the second master is enabled, it's of course a red color. Resonance, presence, nothing fancy. So a couple things, again, since this is more educational and celebrating them, one thing that is very unique is, and a lot of people don't know that, the overdrive 1 and 2 are exactly the same. So a lot of people say this is a 4-channel amp. It isn't. It is a 3-channel amp, and it doesn't have, yes, you have three channels on each channel, 3 sub-channels, if you will. So you have, 12 channels genuinely. But the reality is that overdrive 1 and 2 are completely identically voiced. And it's funny, now I think it's the coolest thing ever. But when I first got into this amp many years ago, I was like, it was really weird, and I understand now why. And it explains it in the manual. And it's kind of brilliant in a weird way. A lot of times you like your solo channel to be similar to the rhythm, but slightly different. So he found it much more diverse to keep these voices the same. And then when you go into a solo, or like a section of the song, to have exactly the same but slightly modified, and again a completely different sound. And once you kind of play with this and you get used to it and you truly understand it and get the hang of it, it is truly, truly, truly cool. Of course, you could have the overdrive 1 on green and then this one on red, and it'll be completely different. But assuming you would have both on red or green or amber, you can kind of voice them differently. And once you get the hang of it, you understand. And you start understanding why he did that, you start realizing that it's pretty cool. So let's say you have them exactly the same. Bass here, noon, and middle will go about 11. This is like a really cool setting. And gain here and here. But now you say, you know what? I want overdrive 2 to be my solo channel. What you do is you give it slightly more gain. And you give it a little bit more volume. And a little more, slightly more treble to cut through, and without changing the tone of the song. And now when you click on that, you come here, you can rock your solo and then come back to where you had it preset here. And what's really cool when you switch on the pedal is that if you're on overdrive 1 on amber but red on overdrive 2, you get back to overdrive 1, you're back on amber. So the foot switch actually remembers what setting you were on. And it'll always stay on the last setting you did. So whatever you dial in here, the pedal will remember, or if you do it on the foot switch, the amp will remember, which is really cool. Now, if you use MIDI, then of course you're doing your own thing. The mid shift is meant for kind of when you do that drop D thing. And again, the other amps don't have that either. So it doesn't have an attenuator, but funny enough, you put a mid shift in there. And I think I'm gonna go out and shoot from the hip here, that he did that because of Chickenfoot. When he played in Chickenfoot, there was some drop D stuff, and it kind of gave it that kind of new metal, modern sound. It is cool, but it's a little gimmicky. I don't know if you're really gonna buy this amp to have a mid shift on it. It's cool to have. Obviously, he wanted it on there. But if you're gonna go that route, you're probably gonna go more angle or maybe a different head to begin with, and not spend, $3,000 to get a mid-shift switch, which you can get on a Marshall DSL-40. So, but it is cool. It kind of drops the mids and changes them up a little bit. The Petrucci JPC2 has the same thing. Now, one thing to know, again, this being educational, one thing you have to know about this amp, the cleans on this amp are the most dry, lifeless, boring cleans on any amp you'll ever played. And that's on purpose, because with him, and again, he explains it in the manual, that is by design. He wanted something that is truly dry, clean, because the clean is the sound of your playing that you will mask the most. And a lot of times when an amp gives you so much characteristics on clean, the pedals that you use kind of start working against you. And so I really appreciate that. Again, I wouldn't have it as a standalone amp, but if you have other options or other combos or other heads, you'll be happy to have that. I'll tell you, when you're on the clean, again, you have, green, amber, and red. When you're on the green clean, it's about as dry and boring as it gets. I mean, it'll do nothing for you unless you have a lot of pedals, okay? Now, the heaven on earth, no joke, is really, and that's really what you're paying for here, is the crunch channel. That is probably, to me personally, probably the best section on the channel ever designed. This is basically, these overdrives, again, are identical. They're taken from the JVM and kind of tweaked, and they are better. They generally are better. They're much more rounded. The mids aren't as harsh. The highs are way more expensive sounding, if you know what I mean. I'm not gonna get into frequency ranges and stuff to bore you with that. But what they did here is absolutely stunning. So when you're on the green channel here, you have a full-on plexi. On the amber, you have that AFD sound, and on the red, it's kind of like an AFD, kind of like a 34 mixed with an AFD. It is freaking heaven on earth. And if there weren't so many demos out there, I'd plug it in right now and show you. But if you like, funny enough, kind of Appetite sound, or like that Hell's Bells kind of AC/DC, then this channel right here, the amber and the red channel on the crunch channel, will just make you drool. It is absolutely mind-boggling how good that channel is. This channel right here and its 3 sub-channels are seriously incredible. You have your standby, of course, and your power, and of course the compared to the regular JVM, it says HJS, Joe Satriani edition. Surprising they didn't put anniversary model here. I feel like since they already went out of their way to make it blue and more expensive and so special and everything, they could have maybe included something here that says, anniversary edition. Would have been really nice. So top quality stuff, just beautiful. The craftsmanship on it is absolutely stunning, and especially if you're lucky to find one that's obviously in this condition. Let me show you the lights real quick. Right now you can see the gate is enabled, and the gate actually shows you for which channel it's enabled. So if we go here and we're on red, the gate is enabled. If we go, oh sorry, that's the mid shift, I was confused to do. So now we're on green here, the gate is off. If we click on amber, the gate is on. If we click on red here, the gate is on. So if I back up a little bit, you see I have here green, amber, red. On the green, the gate is off. On the amber, it's on. On the red, it's on. So now if I want it on the green, I can come click here, and now it's on. And now if I cycle through these 3, you see the gate stays on. It remembers. How cool is that? And that's true for anything and any setting you do. So let's say now, for whatever reason, on the red channel of overdrive 1, I decide I don't want the gate. I can also come here. And now, of course, you have to remember which one is which. So see, the gate is on. Is it? Nope, here it is. So now turn it off. So I just turn off the gate for the red channel on overdrive 1. And see, sure enough, it remembers now. The gate is off. And if I go to the green, it's on. On the amber, it's on. But on the red, it's off. So this is just really cool, man. So whether you set it here or you decide to come and click it here, either one will remember. And what's also really cool is it's just a 1/4 inch. None of this MIDI bullshit, which is one of the reasons why I even almost sold the JP2C, because you always got to have a backup MIDI, and if something goes wrong with MIDI, you're effed. Here, put in another 1/4 inch and you're good to go. So again, and then here, if you cycle through the channels, 1, 2, 3, 4, See if I cycle through overdrive 1, which is obviously 3. Then you can see here green, amber, red. And it tells me what's engaged. So on the green one, I have master volume 2. Maybe for whatever reason, I want on the green channel the master 2 here to be louder. Okay? But if I don't like that, I can disengage that. And now it's gone. This is just really cool. On the amber, I do have the gate and master on and the effects loop. Here I have, so you see, you get the idea. It's kind of, you can really go crazy on it. So again, channel 1 cycles through these as you click. And then channel 2, of course, cycles through the crunch. There you go. And then for each channel, of course, you can decide which master you want, if you want a gate, and how much you want from that gate. And of course, if the effects loop is on, it'll turn on here, just like it is here. If it's off here, of course, it will show you that it's off there too. In this case, it's on. And then if I want it off, I can just come here and click it off. Actually, the effects loop is only switchable from the amp itself. I forgot, so glad I caught that. The only thing that's switchable here, 5, is which master you want. 1, or if it's red, master 2. And then here you have the gate on and off for each channel. If you want the effects loop on and off, you have to come and actually click it on the board itself. And then you see here, it'll be on and off. Really cool system. What I love about this, and if you're considering this amp, what's so great is that, again, you change something on the head or you change it here, it'll memorize it and remember it right away, which is really awesome. That, guys, is the HJS. It's a piece of art. It is gorgeous. It is beautiful. It works flawless. Once you turn this off, it'll actually remember the settings. So when you turn the amp back on, it'll have it stored exactly like you just did. You don't have to hold buttons down to store it or anything like that. So it's really cool. It's a masterpiece. I give it a freaking 9.5 out of 10. If it had a built-in attenuator, it will be a clean-cut 10. But these are hard to get. These are rare to get. If you can get your hands on one of them, I'm telling you, you only live once. Do it. You'll never regret it. And don't let people tell you that there's such a thing as too many knobs. There's never enough knobs. And lastly, here's the booklet that it comes with. And again, you know, your certificate of authenticity and kind of warranty cards and stuff. But it's kind of cool. It gives a little foreword. And then Satch writes, this is Satch's little how it all came to be. It explains what's so unique about the amp. Here you go, it's crazy idea, I know, but these two channels are identical. It just talks about, again, in the beginning it was like, wait, what? But then it kind of makes sense. It's kind of cool. Green mode, a lot of gain, even more gain, more gain. Now, all right, here it is, the absolutely phenomenal, much sought after Slash AFD100. For you who don't know, there was another signature model, the Slash JCM or Slash JCM800. But this is the one. And another great thing that Marshall did in 2011. Let's see what it all comes with. Or again, we'll take the cover off. Great amp. You know, I'm not a... I used to like Slash when I was much younger. I kind of grew out of that. So with Slash fans, it's very unique because there's Slash fans. And then there is Slash fanboy cult, to the point where they try to even look like him when they play. And I don't think that's very healthy. And you know, really, all you do is just ruin your own originality. But that's a whole different topic. I picked, you know, the HJS and the AFD100 and the YJM because I genuinely think they're three incredible and completely different heads. And actually, my biggest gripe with this head isn't even the head. It's actually that Slash doesn't even play them. Because what this really is, it's a silver Jubilee, isn't it? It's a 2555. And all this is like the other two amps. a base model, but then improved, or slightly, I should say, modified, and hopefully made better than what their platform is. So in case of the Satriani head, you have the JVM, and the Satriani definitely is a better head. There's absolutely no discussion about that. It's not different, it's better. The Malmsteen head is definitely better than a 59 because it offers you effects loops and has a gate in there and a power attenuator. And this here is really a Jubilee with some, tweaks to it as well. That being said, Slash really plays live Jubilees and not his own signature head. And personally, love to hear your thoughts, but one of the fastest way to lose my respect is when you endorse shit that you don't even play. Much like the new Slash Les Paul, which he also doesn't play. But I've seen Slash since 2011 at least 50 times. I'm local and I go to any show I can, and not so much for Slash as for the other guys. And I'm yet actually to see him play this live. If he played it live, it's been very, very little. I'm just not the biggest fan. If you endorse shit, play it. Otherwise, don't put your fucking name on it, is really my thing. But, to Slash fanboys, this doesn't matter. If it has this on there, they'll give him their money. But that's a whole different story. The amp, outside of that, outside of my little rant, I would be lying if I didn't say it's a great amp. It's based on the Silver Jubilee. And here's what it comes with. I'll show you the goodies, which are kind of cool. You have your Marshall card. And then you get this little, owner's documentation, which is really cool with the registration. Of course, none of it has ever been filled out. Kind of like there's your COA. And this is nice, of course, just like with the other amps. This is filled out by hand. And, if you have these things, I guess this will go in here, et cetera, and then you have the, of course, the manual, just like with the Satriani head, probably in all kinds of languages and how it came about. Here they discuss how they designed a signature amp that he never uses live. And of course, it's in all the languages, English being first. And then you have this really cool shirt, specifically for the AFD100. This one is still packed up, brand new, so, kind of cool. The pedal, the foot switch, which has you engaging the very simple switch between the FX loop and the 34 and AFD. For you who don't know, so 34 is really the amp there we're chasing the sound, and then when you engage the AFD, or you engage it here, that light comes on, and then it's supposed to give you the appetite for destruction sound. You're not going to find a lot of clean sounds here, but these two things that it does do, it does them very well. And here's your effects loop as well. Much like the Malmsteen, whereas again, the Satriani is missing the power attenuator. This one has it here, goes all the way from 100 watts to 0.05, which is really cool to have it on the front like that right away, accessible. You have a high impedance and low impedance input. You're obviously probably going to be only on number one, but it has the also an auto bias, which is really, really cool. So what you do is when you turn the amp on, you hold that switch down, and what it will do is, I'll turn it around. This thing is freaking heavy. It will auto bias the tubes or find any faults with them. So again, you have this here in the back, just like you have with the Malmsteen head. So if you have any faults in one of the four tubes, you got a light come on, and if you want to auto bias it, you can do that with the way I just showed you. Other than that, pretty much your usual suspects. Your send and return, which of course the original 2555 didn't have. 2555, by the way, the number is for 25 years with Marshall, 55 years in the business for Dr. Marshall. Foot switch, and that's it. So pretty simple. This is your effects return level, how much of that you want. By the way, on all of these, this button is far in. I thought this was kind of pressed in, but I compared some of the other heads, and that's just by production. That knob isn't, you would think that knob will be more out, but on all of them, it's that deep in. The construction, unlike the other ones, isn't gold-based. It's kind of silver-based. Again, silver, Jubilee. And the build construction, the quality of the build is spectacular. It's really well built. A little dust there. Now, one thing that makes this unique is that the tubes are 6550s, which is very interesting. Not many heads you'll see with those. For you who didn't know, I hope you just learned something. The pre's are the same, ECC83s, I believe, or I'm pretty sure they are. I'm 100% actually positive they are. But the tubes, a lot of people think these have EL34s. It does not. The AFD100 comes with 6550s, which have a little bit of a different, they kind of break up a little bit differently at a different range. And really what they're supposed to do is push, at least in theory, a little bit more of that mid-range, hence, I guess, that crunchiness of that AFD channel. But again, so much, of course, depends on how you play the guitar. The build quality, again, is top. This is all silver, unlike the other ones that have it gold. You have this beautiful white thing that goes, of course, nicer with the silver than had that been gold. So it really is a top quality build amp. Let's plug it in real quick. All right, here we go. We got the foot switch plugged in, of course, as always, in the white jacket. Now, keep in mind, one thing I should point out, this is proprietary. So if you ever rip this out or it gets damaged, you're kind of screwed. So one of the shortcomings of this foot switch is, number one, that it's very small, not spaced out, and I wished I would have made a 1/4 inch in here, just like the Malmsteen and the Satriani head, because any issues you ever have here, you have to open the box and then fix it. It becomes a big headache. Why they did that, you know, I don't know. I don't think that was a good decision. Let's turn it on. Power on, red light comes on. Remember to never put it in standby mode when you don't have any caps hooked up. You don't want to put a load on there. That is not good for the amp. And as you can see now, we have the effects loop on, and that stays on. You cannot control it manually, interestingly enough. So I'll switch the effects loop here. Let's see. That did it. And then, of course, between your 34 crunch and the AFD appetite for destruction sound, which will be somewhere here. Well, this should be really up, but you want to put it on about 50 watts here, presence there, middle about, well, really middle, and then there. So that, from my experience, if you're on a Les Paul with Alnico 2 Pros, you're gonna get a good brownstone sound right there. So really cool. So now if I unplug the foot switch, there you go, I should be able to control this manually. Sure enough. And sure enough, and if I put the foot switch back, of course you're back to, yeah, and it shows you the LED lights. AFD, there you go. Okay, so everything works fine. It's really cool. That's really it in a nutshell for that. It's a really badass sounding sound. Again, a wonderful piece of equipment. And I'm going to say it again, dude, if you have something with your name on it, play it live. Don't be a douche. Don't endorse shit you don't play live, because every time I've seen you on stage, Slash, you're playing a fucking Jubilee and not your own signature head. You know, it's a free country, and that's my opinion. Anyway, on to the next. All right, and here is the absolutely incredible YJM. Oh, looks like I already turned it on. Boy, where do we start with this amp? I mean, it's basically a 59, isn't it? It's much different than the others because, of course, the 59 has the 4 inputs, 2 high and 2 low impedance. And it's just an absolute masterpiece, just like the others, based on an already incredible platform that was further improved between Mr. Marshall, Yngwie, and Santiago. On the front, really, and this is what I love so much. When you look how this amp was improved from a regular 59, they put it all on the back and kind of kept the front pure the way it's supposed to be, which once again, kind of Yngwie always surprises you with how, when it matters that his ego is just an act and doesn't really overshadow the respect for the gear. I mean, look, at the end of the day, you wouldn't even know the difference if you didn't notice it just saying YJM here. The rest is kind of all exactly the same, and that's really, really cool that they kept that, especially when you think of all the extra things they added. Let's check out all the great things this amp comes with. Again, all 3 being a limited edition. They have this beautiful kind of handwritten template, also 2011. Tells you who they did the inspection date, final assembly, and final inspection. Warranty cards. It has this kind of really cool certificate of authenticity, just like the others, and then your manual with, of course, Maestro on the top, and it's kind of cool, forward and everything, and it's Marshall or nothing for me. But one thing that's so great is that Yngwie has been using that amp since day one. He has always been using Marshall, always a 59. So having his signature model, of course, is based on that. So the one thing you got to give the guy, it's funny, the hatred he gets, yet he has probably one of the greatest heads in his name, and he tweaked it in the best ways, as we'll discover in a second. So again, just a forward here. And it comes with this really cool Ferrari red cable. It also comes with a cool red cover, also in Ferrari red, that was matched specifically to Ferrari red, which I love. I'm obviously a huge Ferrari fan. And the reason why you don't see the red cover here is because I think it's in the shed and I cannot find it. I mean, I know I have it, but the rest is all the usual suspects, like on a 59, presence, bass, middle, treble, volume 1 and 2, which is for low and high impedance. And the way you do this, of course, as you all know, which is world famous, you plug in the guitar here, and then you actually link these two, and from the low into the high impedance. And oh boy, will you get sounds, because what it does is mix both channels together, and then you can take, your main volume here, and then blend in volume 2 from the second, volume 2, which is basically the master for the second channel. And it just gives you kind of like as if you had the sound dialed in, but then it gives you an extra foundation from underneath. And that's it. I mean, this is a no BS, straight to the point amp. Let's check out the back. Oh, by the way, there is one thing I wanted to point out real quick for 2 reasons. Well, number 1, to call out the idiots, but number 2, also as a learning lesson for the people that might need it. If you noticed, I have this on a step-up transformer. And for one, just for educational purposes, I wanted to let you know this is a really good one that I like. There's a lot out there, but the Sayas is really good. The reason being, this is a European model. This is straight from Europe, from a collection where the gentleman had a few, and I flew it into the US. And I decided for now to keep it original. One way to do it, of course, is to change the transformer inside. You would probably go on a 59 with a Mercury or Hammond. They can either rewire or rebuild the one that's in there. Sometimes not, sometimes it's just easier if they build one for the amp. So you might need what's called a step-up transformer. Step up, not step down. In this case, step up, because we are 110, but this amp runs at 230, at 375. So this is the voltage and this is the wattage underneath. So in that case, you need something that, of course, can take the power from 110, like we have here in the US, to 230 like it is in Europe. And this is a really good one. The reason being is because it is a little dummy proof. It has just 2 fuses in the back, but it doesn't have an input voltage selector, which makes it safe, because a lot of times over the years I noticed people get confused, enter the wrong voltage because they get confused that it's actually in reverse what you're stepping up, and then they blow out the transformer. And all this basically is a transformer like is in here in the amp, but it's an off-board one. So it's kind of annoying you have to have it like that, but the good thing is it lets you leave the amp original. Otherwise, maybe some, time in the future, I'll just bring it to the shop and have them change the transformer inside. Then you turn it on, you plug in the amp in here, and this one, why it's so good is because it automatically recognizes what is needed. And once you turn this on, you turn the amp on, and it will automatically convert. As you can see, it's super quiet. These more expensive ones, they're dummy proof and they're very quiet. If you buy a cheap one, you'll hear a noise and a hum. And the amp has been on for about an hour now, and this is super cool. That's another thing, kind of what you're paying for. So if you're getting one of those, make sure you get a good one. And most importantly, make sure you always get about 50% more of the wattage. So if this amp is consuming 375 wattage wise, you want to make sure you get about 500 so you have a little bit of headroom. Otherwise, you're going to blow this thing out. Now, a few days ago, I posted in 3 Marshall groups if anybody maybe had a step-up transformer that they like, since I haven't bought one in a long time. Now, I'm electrically very inclined, obviously being an engineer graduate from Berklee College of Music. And I got a lot of comments in all 3 groups that I'm an idiot, that all I can do is take this amp just to the local amp store and they can just switch the wires, what is called a 5-minute switch, and convert the voltage. Well, number one, and here's always where I say, especially when it comes to electrical things, if you don't know what you're talking about, maybe it's best just to keep your mouth shut. Yes, you can do that on certain amps. The Malmsteen amp is not an amp that you can do that with. You cannot, yes, it is true on a lot of amps, you can indeed just go and flip the wires, and literally it takes 4 minutes and you can convert the voltage. The Malmsteen amp is not one of those amps you can do that with. And even though I knew that and didn't ask for that, a lot of guys called me an idiot for, he doesn't know that, he doesn't have to do that, he can just go and rewire it. Again, you cannot do that with an amp. With this amp, with the other one you can, with the 59, with the Malmsteen you cannot. And I'm going to spare you the educational reasons why, because obviously you seem to already know it all anyway. And also it doesn't have a switch in the back either like a lot of them do. And that's all on purpose, because the Malmsteen amps that were for Europe were really not meant, and due to other legality and restrictions, they decided to make this amp not switchable like the others. Again, of course, you can't just put a transformer in there. But one thing, guys, man, when you're giving advice on electrical stuff, and I know you have a keyboard in front of you, and because you have a keyboard, you think that you actually automatically know what you're talking about. If you don't know what you're talking about, just best to shut the fuck up. All right, so here is the back. Now, what's interesting about the Satriani head, outside of it saying HJS on the front, etc., you can't really tell that you can tell that it's different from the JVM because it has gates instead of reverbs. Excuse me. But with the slash versus the Jubilee, the changes are much more subtle. And of course, it having an effects loop and kind of the logo in the front, etc. But this amp here will really fool you if you don't see the YJM in the front. And all the changes are in the back. And again, just the 59, the problem is it's loud and you don't have all these things that you really need as a modern player. And for the purists, I always say, listen, man, if Jimmy Page and Clapton had an effects loop and it was offered to them in 72, trust me, they would have used it, let alone in 59. So the reason, they didn't use it is because they didn't have it. On the back, you have your usual suspects, anything from parallel to singular, all the way to a single 16 here if you're not going parallel. But here's what's so freaking cool, man. So you have a booster section, and this actually adds by default will add the gate. Okay, remember the foot switch is programmable just like the others, so I don't want to waste too much time on that since it's identical. You make a setting, the foot switch will remember. You cannot, well, you can take the gate out on the booster, which you don't want to do because it adds more gain. So when you enable the booster, the gate will always go on by default. What the booster is basically the YJM308 pedal built into the amp, which is awesome. So rather than having to put a stomp box in the front, you can literally select this on your pedal and it will give you extra gain on top of the gain that you selected for soloing, and then you can have your own volume for just that booster channel, and that is so freaking badass. So rather than having to do it on a pedal separate from the Marshall head, which is always an inconvenience, Yngwie and Jim and Santiago built this in here, which is so freaking cool. And then the best part is knowing that the amp will get noisier, the gate comes on by default. Again, you can disable it manually, but that wouldn't make sense. You wouldn't do that in real life use. So really freaking badass feature. You have your reverb, which the 59 doesn't have, and it's a really good studio quality digital reverb. None of this spring bullshit that always sounds terrible. Again, if you don't like the amp reverb, you'll have it on your effects loop pedal board anyway, but you can have it here as well. And this is just such a cool feature. More gain and its own volumes. You kind of have actually 3 master volumes, and your a booster being completely isolated from that, and post phase, which is even better. All of this is post phase, which is phenomenal. It gets better. You have, just like the Slash, again, surprising the HJS doesn't have it. If any of the tubes go wrong, this one still has the original Marshalls in from 10 years ago, and they're good. I just had the amp inspected. You should still change it. I mean, technically I would put JJs in there, or EL34s. JJ EL34s will be the best way to go for me, but it still has the original Marshalls in there, which kind of suck. They're made in China. Well, that sucks, and the tubes aren't that good, especially compared to JJs. But then you have an auto bias. So if you turn the amp on and you hold these 2 buttons, it will auto bias the tubes for you. As a matter of fact, let me show you real quick. So this is what it looks like when it's auto biasing. And again, how freaking cool is this feature? So you turn on the amp and you hold these 2 buttons while you turn it on. And the Slash AFD100 does exactly the same. You just hold the FX loop button when you power it on, and it will literally auto bias for you. So just like the AFD, it has a fault indicator. If anything with the tube is wrong, any of the 4 tubes, or it will auto bias. And right now it auto biased by itself. I mean, how innovative is that? Which other amp do you know that does this? And how cool that both the Malmsteen head and the Slash head do that. Sadly, the Satriani head doesn't have that. And again, kind of funny, you know, the Satriani head being the one that has all these options to no ends, but then it doesn't have the auto bias. And again, this is so time-saving, so incredibly cool to have, just to know that you have not only an indicator for when your tubes is wrong, or something is wrong with your tubes rather, but the fact that you can auto bias it is absolutely freaking awesome. Okay, back to the panel overview. Then of course you have your effects loop select, just like on the Slash or the HJS. And you can, you know, select if you want the master bypass on for the effects loop, or if you want it off, which of course leads you right to the obvious suspects right next to it, the send and return and the foot controller. And the coolest thing on earth is, of course, this section right here. I mean, as if this wasn't cool enough, that you have a studio quality gate, the same, by the way, as the HJS has, and then a regular studio quality, a full-on studio quality digital reverb, but you actually have an attenuator built in. Post-phase, very important, all of this is post-phase. You click this button, bam, and it drops the amp to 50 watts in a second. Now the attenuator goes anything from 0.05 watts all the way to 100. Be careful, 0.01% actually means 0.05 watts. So how fucking cool is this? This is, this is the problem. It holds back the other big Marshall heads. A lot of people, like myself included, make that mistake. They go buy a Plexi and a 4x12. You can never use that stuff at home. This actually makes it usable. And of course, there's the big debate, should you use an attenuator outside the amp or not, because it can potentially hurt the amp. Yes, that's true to a certain degree. But you have, first and foremost, listen, look how cool this is. You can actually decide now, do you want to keep the amp on 100 watts and treat it as a 100-watt head? Or do you actually want to turn the amp into a 50-watt? And now 100% means 50 watts all the way down to 0.02 watts. That's what's so badass. Even the Slash doesn't have that. If you remember, the Slash on the front panel has an attenuator built in, but the amp is a 100-watt amp at all times of the game. This can actually turn it into kind of like a 5150 stealth kind of a thing. And now, if you have it maybe at 70%, you're getting much more breakup on a 50-watt amp than you would having it in a 100-watt setting. It's just so freaking cool. And the funny thing is, the guy that came up with the coolest changes to make the 59 home friendly, or stage friendly for that matter, because I play big live shows with a 2x12 on 50-watt settings. The whole 100-watt 4x12 is such an overkill unless you're playing Staples Center. So all these changes just made that 59 so much more usable, so much more modern, so much more accessible. And it's just, I cannot, look how excited I am about it. And I've been playing this amp for years, and now got lucky to find a one that's really mint. What incredible additions, what incredibly smart thinking, and just awesome features. And real quick, so you see the pedal too, very similar to the HJS, but it comes pre-filled, which is cool. This is actually not me writing it. They're actually pre-filled with Ingve's writing, kind of that's his handwriting, so they print that on there already. So these are preset, okay? So you have your boost, and then that light will go on. You have your gate if you want it or not. You probably want that on at all times. Do you want reverb or not? You might use the amp's reverb. You might maybe use the one you have in your effects loop over there if you want maybe more of a, kind of more, well, this is a digital one too, but do you want, hey, listen, it's good to have the option. And of course, do you want the effects loop on or off? So you see much different than the Slash and much different than the HJS. And now let's freaking plug them in and have some fun. Before we go into the sound test, let me show you exactly how we're going to mic it up. I feel a lot of times, or most of the times, this is an important step skipped that the stores, etc., don't show you how to mic it up. I want you to understand exactly what it is we're sending the amp through and what kind of sound you're going to hear. All right, we have this awesome little corner here that we set up just for this overview demo, kind of, if you will. A couple important things. So we're gonna mic it with the greatest combo ever invented, Royer 121 and a 57. Beautiful, gorgeous. We're gonna go into Pro Tools and we're gonna go complete effectless, nothing. We're not even gonna do a high pass filter on Pro Tools, nothing, just into the quartet in this case. Yeah, we'll do the quartet, no need for the symphony. We'll do the quartet and just mic it. And what you will hear is going to be straight through those two mics. I'll have them kind of panned off maybe, a couple of degrees to the left and right, and that's it. I wish a lot of times when I watch these reviews, people will tell me what freaking mics they use, but then they go into Pro Tools and they produce the hell out of it. They add delay and EQ and everything, of course, because they want to sell you stuff. I don't want to sell you stuff. I want you to see if you like the amps. Number two, we have a 2x12 and 1936. Now, these usually come with G1275s. We have different speakers in here. We have the vintage 30s. I replaced these speakers because the vintage 30s are the absolute, some of the best speakers you can use with these more kind of classic amps, if you will. They have a little bit of a tighter mid-range. I think you know exactly what I'm talking about. It's just a little bit, you know, kind of classic, more classic sounding versus the G12Ts that the regular 36 comes with. So even though you see 1936 lead, we're actually using vintage 30s. I replaced those and rewired it. We're going stereo on each and every amp. So we're going 16 ohm left and 16 ohm right, okay? You can go 8 ohms mono, but we're actually going stereo. So what's really nice is that even though we're miking that one cone, it'll pick up really nicely from the second cone. And this is a closed back cap, so it'll get really, really tight. We are going to do dry on each head with no effects loop whatsoever. And then with effects loop, but just so we get a little reverb and maybe a touch of delay. So, you know, you can kind of hear the amp completely dry, which is something you wouldn't really use, especially on clean, but then I'll add a little bit of delay and the amp. You know, I don't want you to worry about settings because everybody's going to set them different. I mean, there's only so many ways you can set this amp. You know, you'll never have the bass all the way down, mids all the way up. You're always going to be somewhere between 10 a.m. and 2 p.m. on your settings. I mean, you know, and just enjoy the amp. I don't want you to worry about playing. I'm going to pick 3 chords and just loop them. Simple stuff, open chord voicing, so you enjoy and see what these heads sound like. Because a lot of times when these amps are demoed, people go into shred and it's so overproduced. And as a producer, I know what they did in Pro Tools and it sounds like a song. No, let's enjoy the amp, you know. I'm going to have a picture of the amp in what setting it is. Obviously with the slash, we'll do a basic setting and then we'll put it from 34 onto the AFD channel. With the Malmsteen, there's not much to do. There's a clean, you roll off the Les Paul a little bit and and then there's the boost and then you're on shred. And on this, we'll just cycle through a bunch of channels, you know, clean and effects, and it'll tell you exactly, it'll be obvious what is what. Another thing that's important, we're going to use a 59 Les Paul. And remember, those are Alnico 3s, unpotted. So real beautiful guitar. And I think the perfect guitar to demo this with. So just close your eyes, enjoy. And this is going to be great for me too. And when I'm done listening to it, I can kind of give you my opinion, but more importantly, I'm dying to hear yours. Well, here we are at the finish line, and as you know, what I usually like to do is sit right here in this chair and give you my opinion, but like in my other videos. But then I was like, why do that? Why look at my ugly face when you can look at this beautiful threesome? I just listened through all the sound samples because I was editing them, and it took hours and hours and days, and I don't even know where to start. I literally have, this is all notes. I don't even know where to start, but I'll start somewhere because, you know what, I'll just start with the HJS and go to the slash and give you some factual opinions and trying to be objective, and then some subjective ones. And I would love to hear your feedback. I'm just so excited to finally have done this, and this is now a week later, and you know, it's the rendering and editing takes forever. But let's start with the HJS, and I'll just go over some notes. The first thing I have to say, you know, it's a shame it doesn't have an EPA, electronic power attenuator, for you who don't know what that means. And I think that's just a big miss. Now, remember, this is based on a JVM platform. This amp is better in every facet than a regular JVM. And please don't get offended. I own the JVM 410 and a 205. That's not saying that the JVM 410 is bad. It's a great amp, but I mean, you would hope this amp is better. If this amp is worse, we got a problem, right? But the fact is, the reality is, this amp, you can truly tell that Satch wanted this amp because it's the most versatile. It has the most knobs, obviously him being a very, you know, virtuosic modern player. And they really, Santiago and him really did refine the channels. I mean, there's just no question about it. You know, it has the 6100, it has the JCM800 in there. You can definitely hear the AFD channel, but there's no doubt it's a quote unquote better amp. It's a more refined amp, and you know, that's what you would hope. That's the whole purpose of this amp. I love that it has studio quality gates instead of reverbs, and the amp is really hands down the most versatile if you need kind of like that modern sound of playing in a modern band. I believe if they brought these back in just smaller forms or in a combo form, they would sell like hotcakes. Now, I did talk to Marshall at the NAMM show 2 years ago, and the gentleman you always see in the video demoing them, he told me that Satriani left to start his own, amp thing. I don't think it has happened yet, but that was the idea, and it's a real shame they discontinued it. You could tell he was really upset about even talking about it, because they were doing really well selling these, and I guess he just decided to leave. That's the story I got straight from the horse's mouth. I mean, you got 1,000 knobs on this thing. Every freaking channel, as we discovered in the overview, has 3 channels built in. As you notice, I started on the red channel, the 6100. There was the green and the amber, just too dry, too boring, and unless you put a lot of chorusing and stuff on there, it's just not gonna do you much, you know. It's a fantastic amp. It's the amp I use the most because I play, as you know, in the Vaticans, and I need that versatile kind of modern amp, but it is hands down the most versatile. And also, it's the one that combines most of the other amps together. Again, 6100, JMC800, hands down, you can hear that. The overdrive, of course, very modern hard rock metal. You have an AFD channel in there, which is really interesting and kind of sounds very similar to the Slash. It doesn't quite nail that plexitone, but that's not what this amp is about. Remember, this is a JVM 410, supposed to be improved for the more modern player, you know. So a much different sounding amp than all the other two, but an absolutely incredible machine. It's basically a 410 on steroids. I love it. If you're a modern player, you gotta have it. On to the Slash. I mean, you can tell from a mile away this is a Jubilee. Let's see my notes. You know, the first thing is, shame it doesn't have 2 masters. If this thing had 2 masters on the front, it will be freaking incredible. That's like the one thing. But I tell you, other than that, it nails just that all-time kind of Jubilee, plexi-ish, glassy sound. Let's see. Now, here's a big one. This thing has 0 clean sounds. Okay, this thing has 0 freaking clean sounds. I mean, I tried, as you noticed on the other two, and we'll get to the Malmsteen. I mean, this thing is perfection. You roll down the volume, you're basically the same as if you switched pedals. We'll get to that. Here, if you roll down the volume on your guitar, it does nothing. You're basically still on gain. This thing is a one, well, two-trick pony. It has the 34 and the AFD. Now, whether they really come close to the 34 that Slash used on Appetite, I don't know. It is, let me look at my notes, very bitey, very, very bitey. The thing is super bitey, super bitey. It is, but the AFD channel, I mean, is awesome. Let's be honest. And, you know, it is a two-trick pony. It is a killer amp. I absolutely love the power attenuator on the front, and other than that, it is a no bullshit amp. It's really a Jubilee. It really is a Jubilee with an extra little tweaked gain channel that you probably could have gotten just putting a DS1 in the front and clicking that, maybe with a little gain. So, and obviously they're demanding a very big premium, as we discovered, because of this. And you also see you have that little snake skin here, which is really cool. A no BS amp, a Jubilee with an effects loop. Really killer amp, very bitey. I think it sounded great listening back to it, but it clearly screams Jubilee from 10 miles away, doesn't it? All right, the YJM. Guys, I swear on everything that's holy in my life, and that's not a lot of things, but when I started this like a week ago, 10 days ago, I had no idea I was going to be feeling like this. As a matter of fact, when this is over, I'm taking this amp. This amp should not have another amp on top of it. It's disrespectful. This amp should be here. As a matter of fact, it should have its own shelf. This is the greatest head I've ever played in my life. And if I wasn't in the Vaticans where I need something modern, that will be sold. Well, this will be the first amp to go as the Slash. Now, no disrespect to the Slash. What blew me away, let me read my first note. What blew me away was when I listened to it right after the AFD. And then you go into the YJM and you're like, oh my God. Now I get it. You can say, hey, this is a completely different platform. It doesn't matter, man. You can't even say a regular 59 will be better. It isn't. This is a 59 that has every single thing you would want. It has a booster. It has more gain in the back if you want it. It boosts the gain as a separate channel, which basically makes this a 3-channel amp. It has a gate. The smartness of engaging the gate when you go to the booster is brilliant. The fact that you have a separate volume and a separate gain control for the booster is brilliant. The fact that you can put the gate also on the other channel is brilliant. The fact that it has a studio quality reverb is incredible. When you switch to 50, the EPA adjusts accordingly to percentage. So if you have it kind of like, you know, you can kind of play this game of, hey, do I want 25% on 100 watts or do I want 66% on 50 watts. When you have the YJM, you don't need an AFD. But when you have the AFD, you need the YJM. Allows for super cleans all the way to death metal. That's so great about these 59s that you simply just cannot do with any of these because they're just not tuned that way. The clean sounds you heard on this, guys, it's the same channel. It's the same channel. It's just the volume on the Les Paul turned down. It's incredible, and it sounds better than the clean. Well, this doesn't have a clean. It sounds better than the cleans on this. Look at my last note. My goodness, it's so good. It has all the modern features you would want on a 59. The boost, the gain, the gates, the EPA. It is switchable from 100 to 50. And it's so brilliant. And what's so funny is, you know, the irony is everybody shits on Yngwie, yet the guy has designed and improved the greatest amp to just, it's so funny that he did it. Gilmour didn't do it. Clapton didn't do it. Jimmy Page didn't do it. It's funny, none of these guys did, but the guy that we shit on the most actually did it. You know, I tell you, if you don't put yourself in a position in your lifetime to play through one of these, you're going to miss out. You're not going to miss out much here. You can just plug into a Jubilee. I promise you, you'll know what the AFD is like. You can plug into a JVM and just imagine it a little bit, into a 4-pan, imagine it a little bit, you know, better scooped, and there's your HJS. But there's nothing on God's green earth you can plug in except for into the YJM to understand what this amp is truly about. And I tell you, I literally could plug into this thing, put the Les Paul volume on 5 and just go. This is my work tool, but this is my passion tool. This is my mistress, but this is hands down the wife I love and would die for. And you know, one thing that's so badass that I want you to do, and that's what's so great about having the sound test the way it was with the timestamps, you can literally go and just click on one, channel that you want, for example, from this amp, and then midway through, click on the other timestamp and it'll instantly take you to that. And that's why I did the sound test the way I did. So it starts on each individual channel right away with no talk and no visual, so that the whole time you're listening, your ear has to work and you see nothing but the head. So use those timestamps and jump between the AFD on that to the booster of that, and to the AFD, which is the red channel on the crunch, the green channel, sorry. And that will, it'd be really interesting. I'm going to do that too once I have it uploaded on YouTube, to actually jump, literally compare them in real time. I hope you're going to enjoy doing that. That sounds like a lot of fun. Looking forward to hearing your opinions. I hope you enjoyed this. You know, I'm really excited to hear your comments. Take good care of yourselves. You know, now I'm done with all the work. Now it's up to you to go and subscribe and leave a comment, because I am really, really, really dying to hear your opinions. And love you all. Thanks for watching.